How much impact do our lifestyle and attitude have on our health? Handling illness tonight on Call with the Prairie Doc. Good evening and welcome to On Call with the Prairie Doc. How you age can be more important than how long you age. Quality of life can be affected by exercise, spirituality, your level of stress, among many other factors. First, let's take a look at this week's Prairie Doc quiz question, a multiple choice. Recent studies showed that walking a mile every day, about 15 minutes, lowered a person's risk of death by 31% compared to those who didn't walk. If one increases that walking to 1 hour every day, their risk was lowered an additional 0%, 8%, 20%. Viewers who call in the correct answer will be entered into a drawing to win a signed copy of our book, The Picture of Health. Each of my essays, originally written for this show, comes with a wonderful accompanying photograph by Dr. Judith Peterson. We'll announce the answer and the winner at the end of the show. Remember, though, you only have 10 minutes to get your answer in. Throughout the hour, though, we'll answer your medical questions about handling illness as they are called in or sent to us via Facebook or email. Call in your questions about wellness to 1-888-376-6225 or send us an email to the address on the screen or share an experience that you've had handling an illness or approaching wellness. Let's give us your feedback. Joining us tonight is Dr. Todd Jacobs, Chief Medical Officer, Avera Health, and a good friend of the show. You've been on about, what, 1,400 times?
Well, I don't know about that many times, Rick, but we've known each other a long time. It's great to be back.
Yes. I remember when you moved into Flandreau as the new doctor replacing Dr.
B.T. Odie.
Dr. Odie.
Right.
And those Christmas concerts at the Indian School.
Yeah, right. We'd go down there, right, and have the drummers.
Drummers,
and
I mean, I've never. It was just amazing.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Bunch of doctors circling around and getting a chance to know Todd Jacobs.
Our hair color was a little darker then.
Yes, yes, it was. And you were in a barbershop quartet.
We did do a little of that.
It was like Mel Thomas, you, and me, and I didn't remember the fourth one.
I can't remember.
Maybe if you're watching, you could call in and remind us who you were, the fourth singer. But anyway, we're talking about wellness, what it is to stay healthy. We're talking about lifestyle. And one of the reasons why I really thought you were perfect for this is because, you know, you're a primary care guy. You've been doing family physician and family medicine for
35 years.
35 years. And then you became medical officer at Avera. And part of your job there has been to look at finding a way to help physician burnout not occur.
Sure.
What you can do to reduce physician burnout. So you had to know what it is that allows a person to stay healthy.
Well, you know, Rick, I mean, we focus a lot on the patients, right? But, you know, doctors can't give good care to patients unless they take care of themselves. And so,
and I think the same thing that burns out a doctor will also burn out everybody else.
Absolutely, no question. And I think wellness and well-being is something that we just really didn't pay too much attention to for a number of years, until we finally figured out that, you know, docs that are not doing well and are burned out. Lots of studies show that the care that they give is
not as good.
Not as good,
No.
right? So very important thing to address.
So the Mayo Clinic did a bunch of stuff looking at physician burnout too, and then they reported on it. I mean, they put it in the Mayo Clinic Journal, and it was in the JAMA. And
Right.
what were the things that they found that was the biggest stressors or
Well,
the biggest?
the numbers are pretty staggering, right? You know, depending on your specialty, but on average, the numbers have increased from the 40 percentile range up into like 55 percentile of docs who at least express some symptom of burnout. And the things that really were determined that affect that are things that really distract us from the things that we were trained to do, right? To sit down face to face with a patient and take care of them. the obvious and probably number one that we talk about is the electronic medical record, right?
Boy, and I'll echo
Well,
that.
I know that you, I know where you stand on that. But you know, to be sure, I mean, it distracts us from the patient, and the development of that electronic record is still relatively in its infancy, right? We're going to look back a decade from now and say, oh my goodness, you know, what we were working with, right? But
you're hopeful, and I am hopeful too, because the potential for this, but what makes me mad is it's a lost opportunity. We are wallowing in this thing for 10 years now.
Yeah,
but anyway, okay.
It has been a long time.
But what else?
But so from the physician standpoint, though, it's also just meaningless tasks, right? And so that's related to the EMR, but also to just all the other myriad of things that come across the desk every day that are clerical tasks, to the point where a lot of physicians say in their total day, some of them spend less than 20 to 30% actually on direct patient care. Everything else is spent on things that they really don't enjoy doing.
So they're under a lot of stress, but you know, everybody's under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
My point is, my reaction is, of course, we can reduce the stress, but there is a component of a person that is a resilient person, a person who can take a lot of stress. Life is full of stress. There's going to be deaths in the family. There's going to be sadnesses. There's going to be losses. You know, there's going to be changes of jobs. Everybody has stress.
Right.
You know, right. Who is it that is resilient? What is it that makes resilience?
Sure. So, you know, resiliency is something that we actually talk about to our docs. We talk about if you don't develop resiliency with what we're doing, then you definitely will continue to go downhill. So how do you become resilient? Part of it is number one, taking care of yourself, making sure that you do get good exercise, make sure that you do get adequate sleep, right? Make sure that you process things in a way that's positive, that has a positive spin. Surround yourself with positive people. All of those things will make you more resilient when you deal with the stresses of everyday practice.
So I'm challenging you guys. What is it that you think that's important about resilience? What is it that, what is a good story that explains why that person is a happy camper? What are the things that gives a person a sense of value? I mean, and I think those are the things that allow longevity.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, when I think about colleagues that you and I know, and I think about patients that I've seen, how some patients can have the worst diseases, the worst scenarios going on, and yet their outlook is positive. They seem well-grounded. They don't seem stressed. And what is it about them that allows them to persevere and carry on? It's amazing.
Well, and I think I think some people are the glass is half full.
Always.
I mean, they're a glasses half full type of person. And my sense is that comes from family. When they were raised in a family where the glass was half full. The data says it's not genetics, it is environment. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, and in fact, well, we were just looking at this Time article, but that came out last week, kind of a timely article. But basically, they said genetics overall about the 30%
30%
impact to your overall longevity, right?
Yeah.
So there's got to be a lot of other factors, right? A lot of other factors that are involved.
30% genetics,
right.
70% all these other factors.
For sure.
So I think a lot of it is family. But let's say that you drew the short straw. There was death in the family, your dad died, or he went away, or your mom left, or somebody was sick and gone all the time, or whatever. Can you still be raised in a positive family? You know, those are very important questions.
Yeah, I think part of it is it's not just your family that you surrounded yourself with. It's the friends that you hold dear that are part of your world.
You said friends versus family. What did you read in this article?
Well, in the article it said that the circle of friends that you have may be more important than family, because some families have baggage.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
so
someone else's, not my family,
not
not
my
your
family. Not my family. Some families have baggage, and so there's more stress associated with some of the family members, and so really your closest friends that surround you. And when you think about it, I mean, I think about the very closest friends that I have and I hold dear, I love my family, by the way, and I have a great family that's supportive. But, you know, I mean, it's different when you get together. You can be, you know, those friends that you can be away from for a year or more, and you're together again, like happened to you earlier this week, and you don't skip a beat.
Oh my gosh!
You know, those are friends. Right?
I'll tell you what happened. I had a week of friends. Now it's my wife's birthday, and so.
And you remembered.
I remembered.
You got that going.
And we're gonna spend a week together coming up. This is gonna be a great time. But a dear friend of mine, Ken Walker, who passed away, I flew to his funeral, and there I was picked up by a classmate, a resident. He and his wife, and another resident buddy of mine. You know, they're old now.
Yeah.
These young guys.
Yeah. Well, guess
and
what?
we went out for dinner, and then the next day, another guy, and my buddy and I drove to Washington, Georgia, and we went to this funeral, and there was a room full of old residents. You know, all these old kids that this teacher had taught. You know, we're old men now, and women. Stood up. A lot of us said something about Ken Walker, and then I flew home, and here are some of my best friends. I mean, we were all having a fish fry. And so just a wonderful time with friends. You know, life is short. Love that. Yep. And so what I think I wanted you to say one more thing about friends. I mean, you have a circle of friends. Are they mostly doctors?
No, not all of them. I mean, I have a circle of friends that certainly are doctors. We look forward to getting together every year. But you know, I have a lot of friends within Flanders that we still see. When our kids were in high school, we were in the rodeo circuit, right? Yeah. And so we still get together with those families. In fact, it's coming up here in early April. I get together every year just for an overnight. Out at the river in Chamberlain
with horses,
and we have a great time. Not with horses this time, but we have a great time. It's just, you know, reconnecting, and that's being connected, right?
Being connected, and I think that's another reason why the church is so important for many people is the circle of friends that surround you.
Absolutely.
When the weather's cold and the roads are icy, it is harder to get to the gym, but luckily there are a wide variety of effective exercises that you can do in the comfort of your own home.
The winter months can be really difficult here in South Dakota to stay active with our cold weather, but one thing that you can do is you can do a lot of fun things outside still, even though it's cold, just bundling up and using the right gear. But when it gets slippery out and that snow on the ground, it's unsafe to be outside. So there's a lot of great things to do. You can come in and just have a chair and just do some body weight exercises such as some squats or some lunges, some push-ups are some other really great options to do that kind of works the entire body. But really you want to work on your strength, your range of motion, and your flexibility. If you're uncomfortable maybe with your balance, a great thing is to just grab a chair, hang onto the chair, and you're gonna lower down, just like you are sitting in a chair. And if you want to actually have the chair behind you, so if you do lose your balance, you actually have somewhere to fall on. And that works your hamstrings, your quadriceps, and then your glutes, which is your bottom, which are used every day, getting up, doing all types of things, whether you're getting in and out of your vehicle, so it's a really great exercise there. Also with the lunges, there you can grab a chair, and you're just gonna straddle and have one leg forward and one back, and you're just gonna dip down. And when you do that, you wanna make sure your knee doesn't pass your toe. But you can go as deep as you want, as far down to the floor, whatever's most comfortable for you, and then come back up. Maybe do 8, 12, 15 repetitions, and then switch legs with the other foot forward and repeat those exercises. As we get older, our bone density decreases. So by doing some of these exercises, you're gonna help keep that bone density. And also just the activities of daily living. You've probably heard that. It's like parking further away at the parking lot if you're going shopping and walking in. By keeping up those during the year, it's just gonna be able to do other things more easily, whether it's grocery shopping. Once again, getting in and out of the car. People take for granted of how much that you twist and turn, and even if you're grabbing things off the shelf at home, carrying in groceries. So it really is important to keep that up during the winter months. It's never too late to start exercising or an exercise program. Start off slow. Take 3 to 5 exercises with 8 to 15 repetitions, and just try it a few times a week. You can start very modified. For example, if you would do a push-up, you can start on your knees or even start on the wall and do some push-ups and work at it. But don't feel discouraged. We all had to start somewhere, so just start somewhere, do a little something, and eventually you're going to get stronger and you're going to feel better and be able to do more things.
This is your show. Your questions are key to our show. I mean, we're nowhere without your calls. Call in your questions about handling illness or about wellness or about an experience to 1-888-376-6225 or send us an email to ask@prairiedoc.org. Please do that. Make this show better. This is your show. So she talked about exercise, Tad. I thought that was a very important point. You know, you can do it at home, and you don't need a huge equipment deal. What's your comment about exercise?
Well, it's indisputable, right? That the more you exercise, the better off you're going to be. I think of patients, Rick, that you know, you and I both have seen in the past who come into the office and they say, everything aches. I'm sore. Everything hurts. I'm tired all the time.
Tired, that's the
tired. I'm so tired. And I asked them about exercise, and well, I can't do any exercise. It just doesn't work. Well, I can tell you from personal experience that it's amazing how exercise will not only impact your physical well-being, but it impacts your mental well-being too. So, I mean, you're sharper, you remain engaged longer. And so
it's your most important treatment for depression.
It is. Absolutely.
I mean, it's
absolutely
powerful. No, so you're a fan.
So I'm a fan. So I had this last year I had the pleasure of having a couple surgeries down in Sioux Falls, and so I decided that one of the things I needed to do, I'm on the farm, I do a lot of activity anyway, but I needed to pick that up a little bit, and I wasn't doing much in terms of upper and lower body strengthening, right? Mm-hmm. And to the point of the therapist, a lot of these things you can do easily at home, but you know, I'm lazy, right? So it really helps me if I have a coach. If I have a coach who says, you know, keep pushing me, right? So I do that, and 2 or 3 times a week, I'm down at a fitness center early in the morning, and I'll tell you what, those days that I do that, I feel so much better, and the days that I miss, I don't feel nearly as good.
Yeah. My answer is, I echo the same thing. My personal experience is I walk to Cook's Kitchen in the morning. I do my writing. It's a half a mile there. I walk back. It's another half a mile. I get my mile in every day. I've tried in the past, and I'm going to do a little bit better as the summer comes, as the spring breaks, to vigorously exercise 3 times a week like you're doing.
Right. So, and it can be as simple as just walking. I mean, just the power of walking alone makes a huge difference. Just get up and get active.
Yeah, and it is the reason why people are tired. I can't say how often I hear that. I'm just so tired. And you look at them and they're too tired to get exercising. And they are at a point, if they go too long, they won't be able to exercise.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to go into the biochemical reason, but there is an actual biochemical reason that releases substances in our body when we exercise. It makes us more alert, more active, and definitely we feel
And
better.
the pain, it reduces pain.
It reduces pain.
We have a call from a woman from Sioux Falls, needs to take Benadryl to fall asleep. Is this all right to use with her inhaler? Is this an unhealthy habit?
Yeah, you know, I think relying on any medication, and even an over-the-counter medication like Benadryl, it is an antihistamine, right? It's like an allergy drug. But relying on any of those medications to help you sleep is just not a path that I would support. I think sleep hygiene is something we can learn a lot more about, right? And so it's part about, first of all, if you're more active during the day, you will sleep better at night.
So the first thing is you're suggesting exercise.
Yeah, here I
go.
Go
Figure.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I know we sound like I would say absolutely echo the comment about Benadryl. It loses its effect And so after day 3 or 4, it's not doing anything. And the problem is if you stop it, you're going to have some withdrawal. Most of the time, if I were going to use a medication, I would use an antidepressant, an SSRI, because many times people who can't sleep are having an underlying depression.
I agree with that.
But the best treatment for depression is an exercise program. Honestly, I've seen this every year. I have at least 1 or 2 psychiatrists on this show, and every time I ask them about exercise, value of exercise, it's the SSRIs won't work unless you're walking.
Right. I would say to anybody who can't sleep at night, try in the early evening, just try either going for a walk, try just doing some basic exercises, whether they're just standing up and sitting down in a chair.
Yep.
But do it to the point where you're tired. At that point, it will help you sleep better at night.
More than anything. And the problem is any pills that you're using for sleeplessness, the pills, aside from SSRIs, you'll have withdrawal, sleeplessness.
Yeah,
So
not a good road.
Not a good idea. Caller from Flandreau has a comment. Dr. Jacobs saved his life. I love to hear that,
Yeah, God
Dad,
bless you.
by ordering an echocardiogram, and gives credit to Jacobs. Much appreciated. That's a nice comment.
Thank you very
Every
much.
once in a while, we do something good. You know what I mean?
It's good to hear that, too. That's wonderful.
My spouse recently had a 2-vessel heart bypass. Luckily, he didn't have a heart attack. He is attending cardiac rehab at the local hospital. How important is it for him to continue with cardiac rehab after the 30 sessions at the hospital? What are the advantages of attending the follow-up sessions with other heart patients? And I'll come to the answer on that one. Really important.
Really important. Yeah, you think about, okay, well, there's 30 treatments afterwards or whatever, but these are not finite things for our health, right? They're lifelong lessons that we need to continue. So if you do rehab, continue what you can at home. It will keep you healthier, no question.
So there's a question about diet. What is the best diet? What did the magazine say about diet? But what do we know about diet and longevity?
Yeah. So we know, and it was you pointed out in the Time article, which I thought was interesting. They identified 5 areas in the world where people lived well past their 90s and into the hundreds, right? And what was it about those? And you have the list.
Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, Nicoya, Costa Rica, Loma Linda, California, and Icaria, Greece.
So they looked at those areas and said, why have this great population of people living into their hundreds? And it turns out that the common denominator of all those people was a diet that was more of a Mediterranean diet, right? Less beef, more vegetables, more fruit, more
beans
and nuts, right? Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think if you look at the studies on diet that I've gone after in researching this very question, the studies solidly say less calories. And if you're eating that kind of a diet, you just eat less calories. Right. The highest calorie diets seem to be those that are backed with loaded with carbohydrates. And so I think if you watch your calories, the science says less calories is the most important thing. I like the idea of what you said: beans, fruit, nuts,
right,
vegetables, and there's some new data about leafy green vegetables and dementia.
Right.
So I had a salad on my way home.
Did you? Yeah, it was good for you.
I was looking at this burger that I could have had, or this salad. I think I want my brain to stay intact. Do the salad.
Now I know that probably my wife Kathy is watching this show, Rick. But I would tell you, she would tell you, I am totally inept in the kitchen, right? And
are you?
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
Oh,
I mean, I could throw something in the microwave or something like that, right? But I think it really is learning to cook differently though when you talk about that kind of diet, right? And so, I mean, Kathy told me it's harder. You have to plan more and learn to cook differently. And so, for those folks out there who are the cookers in the family, you need to either go online or talk with a dietitian about how you can do those things.
But if you go online, I mean, there is a billion recipes out there for free. I mean, it's not hard to find a decent recipe. It's interesting if you go to Applebee's, free advertisement. They will give you the calories of the food that you're eating. And I'll go for the low-calorie meal. What is that? It's oftentimes a steak. It's not a well-marbled steak. It's a lower marbled steak. Sure. And a salad and something with beans in it. And wow, a low of 350 calories. And
not a 16-ounce steak.
No, it's a
6-ounce
6-ounce steak.
Right.
And I had a nice steak meal, and my daughter, Julia, had a salad. Well, the salad was a 1,200 calorie salad with deep fat fried chicken crispy things all cut up and all this, 1,200 calories versus 300, and I had the steak, she had the salad. So you need to look, and you can go to these places and say, how many calories in an Applebee's crispy fried chicken salad, and it'll give you the number of calories in these things.
So I got to ask you though, what about a glass of wine or having some alcohol with your dinner? Do you do that too?
I am, yes, I do. And I looked at this data again, and of course it's mixed. You'll find, there are people who have problems with over drinking, and the last thing I would want to do is anybody to overdrink. I had one patient who said, what do you think, doctor, a glass of wine every day? And I said, yes, it's a good thing, unless it's a problem for you. It's not a problem for me. And a year later, her son called me and said, she's drinking a glass of wine every night, but it is a tumbler. It's a bottle. And she's hammered every night. That's not
the intent.
good.
That is not the intent.
But I do believe that a glass of wine, and I think there's some data that says a red glass of wine, although there are some data that says it's the alcohol.
Right.
Beer is good,
Right. I think they see 7 glasses a week for women, up to 14 for men. I've read
not
that.
all at one time.
Not all at one time. A week.
Yes.
Not all at one time.
And and of course it's like how many ounces, how much. So the standard is a shot of hard liquor, a 6 ounce
can or 8 ounce can of beer, right?
8 ounce can of beer, and then 4 ounces of wine or something like that. But we do not recommend it for people who have a problem with alcohol. You and I are both believe that there is an advantage to the health with spiritual side of things.
Absolutely.
And I am not an exclusive spiritual person. I am inclusive. I like to include any religion. In fact, they have looked at the data on near-death experiences. People have the vision, the warm light at the end of the tunnel, all that stuff. They seem to occur equally in Christians, Muslims, Jews,
Sure.
All of the religions of the world.
Sure.
And almost all of them also speak to justice and compassion. But what do you think about the spirit and health and longevity and wellness?
Well, Rick, there's no question that all the great religions of the world, are separated by pretty fine lines, right? And I think one of the things I think that's common about those religions is that it pulls like-minded people together that are supportive of each other, and that's clearly one of the reasons I think that the religion is important. But I go way, in my mind, I go way beyond that. I think, I'll separate religion from spirituality.
Okay.
And religion being the religion that you have, whether it's Christian or Muslim or what have you. Spirituality, though, is what your feelings are about your relationship to a greater being in the world, the transcendent, whatever you interpret that to be. And for some people, that's very difficult. But for those who are grounded spiritually, I think whether it's in healthy life or whether it's in a death, they just seem to do better, right? And so it's the difference between do you die living, or do you live dying, right? And I think folks that are grounded spiritually really seem to do much better, no question about that. I had the opportunity one time, we were talking to med students earlier, to sit around a table with a bunch of physicians, and we were reading a book that was written by a surgeon, and it was about spirituality. But one of the words that was new to me at the time was the word numinous, a numinous event. And he described numinous events as events that happen in our lives when suddenly we are confronted with the fact that there is a greater thing happening, a greater presence.
Numinous. How do you spell that?
Numinous. Numinous. A greater presence that's at work here than just you or me. And what was interesting about that conversation was going around the room with physicians saying, telling of events in their practice where they experienced that thing. So that's powerful, right? I mean, that's really powerful.
Well, I know that you've had to face prostate cancer yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to bring it up.
No, yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. I mean, we both are kind of in the same boat there, aren't
Yes,
we?
we
A
are.
bit.
Has that brought the spiritual side of you out, Denny?
I think so. Although I think
You were there before, weren't you?
I've been blessed to have been raised in a family that was really grounded spiritually, and so as I went through this event, I really felt a calmness, and I had the support of family and friends around me that I never really got anxious about it. To this day, I mean, there's a little bit of underlying anxiety there, but for the most part, I feel very comfortable knowing that, I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna be all right.
Well, we can talk more about that one.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Remaining in your own home as long as you can, safely live there, is the goal for many. Sometimes just a little help with everyday life can make the difference between staying independent or moving.
I have advanced macular degeneration and I do not see very well. I have very low vision. I have reached a point where shopping was difficult, driving was difficult, reading print is absolutely impossible. I have no family living here. They are all spread all over the country. And I started out by asking the secretary in the church if there was anybody in the church that could help me. She advised me to get a hold of the Brookings County Volunteers, who in turn referred me to social services, who in turn referred me to the Senior Companion Program through the Good Samaritans. Home Health called me and told me that the volunteer that they had in Brookings had had a cancellation and that she was willing to take me on and that she would like to visit with me. And within an hour of that call, Lorraine was here.
Senior Companion is really just a person like you and I. It's an ordinary person who has kind of like a joy to share with others and help others. I really enjoy helping others. And if I can make their life easier and step in for a moment for a spouse. I took training to become a Senior Companion from Kristen Fox, who is the manager down in Sioux Falls of the Senior Companion of South Dakota. I'm allowed 2 hours with each person, with each client. For instance, with Monty, most of the time we do errands like going to Lowe's or Walmart, or the other thing is picking up groceries at Hy-Vee and cards. People don't think about it, but it's kind of hard to get around to get cards and the little things you need.
To me, it has been a godsend. She takes me to do basically my chores. I see well enough that I am more than able and capable of caring for myself, but shopping is a real problem.
We have ads in the paper, Senior Companion. It may sound strange, but people look at it and don't realize that it's referring to them. We need both people who would like a Senior Companion, and we need Senior Companions. They can call the office in Sioux Falls, 1-888-239-1210 is a toll-free number, and talk to either Connie or Kristen and tell them what you need.
For me, the Senior Companion fills all of those needs from one person, and it is just fantastic.
Well, we've got some questions now.
Good.
I thought that was a beautiful comment that you said, and I have to echo it. I particularly feel that, you know, I've had this wonderful life. It made me pause to think about all of the good things that's happened.
Yeah, indeed. It does.
So we have a question here. The caller from Rapid City asked about Guillain-Barré syndrome, which causes her family member to struggle with peripheral neuropathy. What's the prognosis? What can be done to prevent falls caused by the neuropathy?
Yeah, you know, it's just a bad disease, right? And so our neurology colleagues, right, that deal with this, I mean, there are some medications that can help, but it is one of those diseases which can wax and wane, right? And so there may be better days ahead, but communicate with your neurologist. I
Yeah,
would say.
and most of the time it will go away. I mean,
Yeah,
80% of it will go away. 80% of the time, something
It goes away.
I mean, there are people who have more problems, but and it's a weird deal. It's a viral infection.
Yeah,
You
very
get
weird.
French polio. You get paralysis. I saw one of these people that I knew. It's a black gentleman from Atlanta, I think. Well, I don't know where he's from originally. One of the smartest men I know was at this funeral, and he had Guillain-Barré to the point where he was on a respirator. And we went, Cornelius Flowers is on a respirator? I mean, he's this intern
Yeah.
friend of ours.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
while he was an intern, he got it while he was working, you know?
Right.
Came out of it. I mean, you should have seen him. He's now an Emory cardiologist. I mean, a brilliant man. It's just a joy to see Corny still alive. We call him Corny, that, of course. I don't think his patients probably call him Corny. What vaccines are commonly recommended to help keep adults healthy?
Well, you know, vaccination is definitely one of those things that has made an incredible difference in our lives. You know, when you think that we are a generation of physicians, Rick, who don't know about polio, or we don't know about death from
Pox.
the poxes and all that. Clearly, I mean, you know, the immunizations make a difference, and so I think for adults, right, the number one vaccine that's missed the most is tetanus, right, and so you need to have a tetanus every 10 years, and so that needs to be followed. Depending on your age, Pneumovax, which is protection for pneumonia, it's now a 2-shot process, extremely important. Of course, an annual flu shot is very helpful. Now this year, worst flu shot, I think, flu season that we've had, right?
Right.
Unbelievable. But still, and there was a lot of data early that was saying, you know, there's only 10% effective.
Well, we think 30%, but that's still 70%
Yeah,
miss. But
right.
it's still 30% effective.
It's still, and imagine what the death rate would have been if it was worse. So, herpes zoster, now shingles, right? So there's
shingles
vaccination
shot.
for that. Really helps, makes a big difference.
I love those answers.
Yeah.
How often should those over 60 see their primary doc if they're basically healthy? I say once a year. Don't you
I'd
agree?
say once a year too. You know what? It's amazing. Well, we both are over 60, right? So when you reach well, it's 50 or 55. I mean, things started to change pretty dramatically. I talked about my prostate cancer earlier, but you know, I was 64 when that occurred.
Diagnosis came.
And so I think things begin to pile up, right, when you get into your 6th decade and beyond. A lot of that really depends on your family history, right? So if you've got a bad family history, you might want to start annually, even earlier than that. But I agree with you, right? Annually.
Once a year anyway. And probably the most important test is the review of systems.
Yeah.
So how's your vision? How's your hearing? What about swallowing? What about your stomach? Acid in the stomach? What about your bowels? Blood in your stool? How are you breathing? You know, just a review of systems. That's, I think, the most powerful test, way better than any total body
What
CAT
did we
scan.
learn in medical school? History, history, history.
Yeah.
And if you can't figure out diagnosis, go back to the history.
So are pets good for one's health?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's a good answer. And of course, there's data on that. So,
Well, there's your friend. You're talking about friendship. And let's say you're someone who doesn't really have a lot of external friends, right?
Yeah.
But you know, if you have a pet in the home, you know, that person can be your or that animal can
be your friend.
Be your friend, right? Exactly.
I'll give you a question. So how do you get friends when you're a person that just doesn't have a lot of friends? And I think that this is important. This is a very important question.
Yeah.
So here's my answer. When I came down with pancreatic cancer, I thought, I've got to gather all the gusto in every moment. And part of what gathering the gusto is to be able to communicate with friends like you and I communicate. I mean, we have there's this good bond.
Yep.
How do you get there? Well, I mean, I'm going to die. Well, so is everyone watching this.
Yeah.
You're going to die. What have you got to lose? Open up your heart and say hello. I mean, there's some data about being friendly, you know, saying people who say hello to everybody on the street live longer.
Like, right. I mean, you know, folks are not necessarily going to come to you unless you actually reach out to them, right? And so I think, you know, for those who are more isolated, you know, it's not being afraid to reach out to other circles, right? And that takes some doing, right? But whether let's say it's exercise activity and you find a group that you would exercise with. I mean, you can develop new friends that way. Through church, you can develop additional friends. Reading clubs, you know, I mean, all of those types of things. It's being willing to put yourself out there a little bit.
So I had a friend, Murray Surfling.
Murray.
So Murray is a classmate of mine, frozen with friendship. I mean, hardly a friend. I mean, he's very quiet, hardly knew him in our class. I mean, all these people that I knew very well, but Murray, in the back of the room, very quiet, you know. And he married, had a lovely wife, and then the wife got very sick, and the last 10 years of his life he spent caring for her, and it changed him. And then she died. And then we had our 50th high school reunion, right? That's what we just had, right? So we're at the 50th high school reunion for D. Smith High. Murray's there. He danced with every girl that was there. He would have danced with me if I would have said yes.
Yeah.
He danced with everybody. We all went, Murray! And, you know, we were talking about a dear teacher of ours, Gary Meter, who I just love Gary Meter. And it was the stories, and Murray piped up. I mean, who is this guy, right?
Terrific.
He died a month later.
Oh.
And I thought to myself, we all said, he knew something. What did he have to lose? And so just a joy to know that, you know, even if you've been a kind of a quiet guy, let it go. What have you got to lose? Right. Open up your heart and kind of push yourself out there. Sorry, it was too good of a story.
That was a good story.
Murray would have loved that story.
Absolutely.
An 87-year-old caller from North Sioux City has lost about 25 pounds in the past year. Her doctor hasn't said anything about the weight loss because her blood tests are normal. Her appetite's decreased. Should she be concerned? What action should she take?
I think if you lost 25 pounds in a year and you haven't been trying to lose weight, that's a red flag, right? And so I'd go back to your family doctor and say, look, we need to look deeper.
Right. And if the doctor doesn't respond in a way that you're satisfied,
get another opinion.
A woman from Belfouche had both knees replaced a few years ago. She hurt her knee this past fall, and it's swollen for a while. The swelling has gone down, but now it appears there's a bruise, and the pain has come back in the last month and a half. What should she do?
So I had my knee done a year ago, so I'm in the same boat, right? So
Okay.
I mean, in terms of, it's been about a year that I had a total knee, but I was getting out of my Bobcat one day, and I pulled a muscle in my calf, right? This was after the surgery, and the swelling had gone down pretty quickly. But it doesn't take much, really, for you to have increased swelling in that lower leg, and then if you've had surgery in the knee, things swell up quite a bit more. I would say this, I mean, if the swelling and the pain is persistent, she needs to go back and see the orthopedic guy who did the knee so they can just check it out.
I agree.
But I'd give it time.
Give it enough time.
Yep, right. Unless it's acute pain in the calf.
Sometimes, oh yeah, and then what could that be?
Well, blood clot potentially, right? So that wouldn't be the first thing on my list, but I mean, it's one of those things that if you have increasing swelling, very significant cast tenderness, you know, a clot would be something you'd want to rule out.
You know, probably the most, if you did autopsies at every death that occurs, probably the most missed diagnosis is blood clots. And blood clots to the lung will kill you. Right. So, I mean, if there could be something going on in that calf and that swollen, just like Dr. Jacobs said, I think you need to make sure you look into that. Another woman from Belfouche has advanced osteoporosis. She wonders what nutritional choices and information can you provide in order to build bone at an advanced age. Her goal is to try and avoid drugs and really focus on a balanced diet by receiving her calcium from natural sources. Now, you and I may disagree on this, and so we'll give. You give
ahead.
your answer.
Go
You
ahead.
give your
No,
answer.
I would say there's lots of good sources of vitamin D, right? And so we all think about milk, and we think about cheeses, and we think, but even green vegetables are good for vitamin
Right.
D. And you know, if I might even use a supplement for vitamin D.
I think of all the supplements, that's the one that I think has great credibility.
Right.
I like Nature Made.
Right.
It's vitamin D3, and you're safe up to 5,000 or 4,000 a day. I go 2,000. It's what I take. And if you live north of Omaha,
Yeah.
you don't get enough vitamin D from the sun. I don't care how much time you're out there.
Right.
So the answer is vitamin D supplement, and the next best answer is exercise, because
It
that
does.
makes the bone
Bone
stronger, better than Fosamax or all the injections or all the rest of it.
Right.
Calcium supplement, I'm afraid of it. I like calcium in milk
I
and
agree.
cheese.
I agree.
We agreed. I couldn't believe it.
Well, you're at least once. That's good.
That's a good thing that we're together on that one, Tad. A caller from Aberdeen has a PSA test every year, and it comes back normal. Why is the manual exam necessary if the PSA test, if everything is fine? Wouldn't one test or the other, preferably the blood test, be done?
You know, thank you for that question, whoever called that in. So I feel pretty passionate about that. You know, Rick, as we alluded to earlier, both of us have had some cancer experience. And I think you said, Rick, all of us should have cancer once a year and then have it cured, right?
It changes you.
It changes you. And I'll tell you what, having gone through the experience myself now, there are things that I wish I knew, that I wish I had said, you know, to many of the patients that I had for years that had developed cancer. But specifically to prostate cancer, this is a debate that's going on. It's very confusing for patients because different sources will tell you, you know, that you need to have a digital exam or you don't. PSA is good or it's not. The most current recommendation are males that are 55 to 69 with normal risk, not higher risk. So if you had a family member with prostate cancer very early in life, that it might be early in that. But 55 to 69, annually or every 1 to 2 years, a PSA test with or without a digital exam. Now, if you were to talk to our urology colleagues,
They want the digital
and if you would ask me personally, yes, a digital exam. And let me tell you why. So I was very diligent about PSAs. I would do them every year or every 18 months or something on that order. And so in early 2 years ago, my PSA had gone from 1.8 to 2.8 to 3.8.
We got 30 seconds.
3.8, as you know, is a normal PSA. But I thought, boy, that's a little elevated. I asked my primary care doctor to do a digital exam, found the nodule, found the cancer.
Yeah, I agree on the digital exam.
Right.
You can feel it. You can feel that cancer. I
Right.
can feel it on colonoscopies
Right.
before I do the digital.
Keep getting it checked and keep encouraging digital.
Do the digital exam and check for blood because that caught a bunch of colon cancer. And now for the winner of tonight's Prairie Doc quiz question. A recent study showed that walking a mile every day, about 15 minutes, lowered a person's risk of death by 31% compared to those who didn't walk daily. If one increases that walking to 1 hour every day, their risk was lowered an additional 0%, 8%, 20%. And the answer is 88%. In other words, 39. You went from 31 to 39 with a huge, I mean, walking an hour versus walking 20 minutes. And the point I'm making is it's that first mile that matters most. If you can do the 3 miles, great. But get that exercise done every day, that 1 mile, that's so important. Get out there and walk if you can. You'll be better for it. It was Audrey Jacobson from Groton, South Dakota. Go Groton, who answered the question correctly. Thank you, Audrey, for participating, and a book will be in the mail to you soon. We'll be right back after this.
In a world where selfies are seemingly innocent, something lurks. And no one is spared.
How goes it?
It's flu season.
A college friend had a heart attack recently, and I found myself in an email conversation with buddies talking about his condition and reflecting about our own wellness. I recently read that only 20% of how long the average person lives is due to genes, which begs the question, what is it that would have prevented our friend's heart attack, and what can each of us do to enhance wellness? Preventive medications and supplements have been widely advertised by the pharmaceutical and supplement industry, which is the same really, but unfortunately are at best minimally helpful in protecting people from vascular disease. Rather than taking pills, a plan to make simple lifestyle changes would be way more effective. This starts with realizing the huge benefits coming from a daily walk. Walking 12 blocks or 1 mile a day can be the goal. And if this is out of your range, start slow, build, and do what you can. Even a little is good. A recent study found that for people who walk 3 miles a day or ran 45 minutes 3 times a week, death rate lowers a notch more, but the most benefit comes from just that first mile. Side effects of daily walking include increased strength and energy, strong bones, improved mood, and better sleep. There's lots of talk about treating obesity, but studies show that the very best weight loss programs fail after 5 years. Therefore, I never encourage people to have weight loss as their goal. Solid science shows a lower calorie diet, like 20 or 30% less than usual, and emphasizing beans and vegetables will enhance longevity even without weight loss. In general, a person who is heavy but is also strong and physically fit has a life expectancy similar to that of a thin person. What else? Improved longevity seems to follow in those who are well connected to friends and family. The same goes for those who nap daily and in those who give it up to a higher power. Physician stress studies have also shown that people with a creative outlet do better. The balance of scientific data also shows that those who drink 1 or 2 glasses of wine daily and not to excess live significantly longer. Of course, bad things can happen to people who are doing everything right. But it's hard to fault someone whose day includes a brisk walk, makes something creative, eats balanced smaller meals, takes an afternoon nap, enjoys a glass of wine with a friend, and then says a prayer of thanks before bed. Well, a great big thank you to our guest, Dr. Todd Jacobs, for volunteering to come to the studio and address this important topic.
Great to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
On a personal note tonight, the medical world has lost a wonderful doctor, a legendary crusader for health, and just an all-around great person. Ken Walker was a friend and a mentor. He was on the show 2 times in the past. He passed away this last week in his home in Atlanta. His profound knowledge of medicine, deep compassion, and high standards for performance and professionalism were imprinted on almost 50 classes of Emory University medical students and residents, including me as I was beginning my life as a physician. Ken was kind enough to visit our program in the past. We could fill an entire hour program and still not cover anything that he wanted to start. He will be missed. And somebody called about calcium supplement. The answer is there's data to say that people who take calcium supplement have more heart disease. You agree with that?
I agree with that.
Well, that does it for tonight from all of us here at On Call with the Prairie Doc. Until next time, stay healthy out there, people.
We will be off the next 2 weeks as South Dakota Public Broadcasting has a pledge drive. Be sure to call in your pledge and then tune in March 22nd when we'll be back to discuss urinary incontinence problems. Next time on Call with the Prairie Doc.
Major funding for On Call with the Prairie Doc has been provided by
Avera is a proud sponsor of On Call on South Dakota Public Broadcasting.
Larson Manufacturing is proud to support On Call Television as it continues to open doors for important medical information.
And by the South Dakota Foundation for Medical Care and the Medical Quality Improvement Organization for South Dakota.
and with the ongoing support of these individuals and institutions.
Brookings Healthcare System,
Ophthalmology Limited,
American Academy of Family Physicians Foundation, and the South Dakota Academy of Family Physicians.
Avera Heart Hospital,
Dakota Allergy and Asthma,
CoBank,
Fishback Financial Corporation,
Vance Thompson Vision,
Aberdeen District Medical Society,
Black Hills Medical Society,
the 3rd District Medical Society, Brookings, Madison, and Flandreau,
Dakota Bank,
Orthopedic Institute,
Physicians Care Sanford Clinic Community Service Committee,
and Swiftel Communications.